Have you heard about Nipah virus? Companies have had a lot of disruption during COVID, and obviously we have right now another virus that start to be pointed out with risk of spreading around, providing a lot of impact in Asia. This is something you have to know if you are also looking at the impact that may happen on your supply chain. Hello everyone, welcome to this new video. In today's episode, we are heading to a factory in the south of Vietnam. This is a Chinese-owned factory, and what is interesting is that during COVID, they set up their own operation here. So obviously because they were pressured by their clients from Europe, from the US, to get more and more products made outside of China, they have decided actually before COVID, they already investigated different markets. They were considering Indonesia, Thailand, as well as Vietnam, and they finally found Vietnam as the place to set up their operation. COVID was, of course, a bit difficult for them because they couldn't move things forward. But as soon as borders were open, they set up their production center here. We are speaking about making fabrics. So they're going to source raw yarn in Vietnam and in neighboring countries, and they're going to make fabrics type of production. And of course, because Vietnam is among the three largest exporters of garments, it was making a lot of sense to get fabrics made in Vietnam so they could provide to their overseas clients, but also look at more vendors, so look at more garments factories here in Vietnam that offers garment production for foreign markets. If you are yourself an industrial player and you are looking at Asia to set up your own production facility, it can be in India, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, right? There are a lot of countries that are making sense here to set up your own operation. You will learn a lot from this video and from this insider's perspective, setting up the Chinese-owned factory here. Let's head to the factory and discuss with some of the key representatives about the reasons why they choose this place and also what are the strengths and the advantages that they have gained from setting up their own operation. Let's get into it. It's a pleasure to meet you, Hardy. So it would be interesting to get an overview about your company, your group in China, and also why did you set up this factory here in Vietnam?
Sure. About 25 years ago, we set up our group in China. The name is GNH Group. Then, we just mainly focus on the knitting factory. Our customer mainly focus on the USA and Europe because of the relationship of USA and China. So we move out. So 3 years ago, we set up the factory at GNH Renewable in Vietnam. Means that we need to take over the orders from China, mainly focus on our top 5 customers because they are mainly from Europe and USA. Just this factory only focus on these orders. We set up the factory here. We also focus on the local garment factory and vendor and some branch office, maybe some trading, because we are Vietnamese factory of the Dubo. So we must localize, means that our customer, our team, our management, something like that. So we just take 1 year to finish, to building the house, to installation the machine, to testing the trial orders. So then 2024 we start, means that we start production. But as you know, maybe 50% from Chinese, the old customer. Now 50% just localized,
Can we move here more to your top clients? Because something interesting that you have shared is that first you set up this Vietnamese plant because your big clients were looking for resilience. They were looking to have sources and certificate of origin made outside of China, right?
Yeah.
So you decided to support them and support their diversification.
You see, this is our top one, like Old Navy and Gap, because this is a USA brand. They just have the target move out from China. So you see, 4 years ago, we just investigation Vietnam and Indonesia. So finally, we decision here. Why? Because so many garment factory also located in Vietnam. We set up the factory and the installation, the machinery, and do some testing. So then, 2024, the customer just come here to do some audit. Then, okay, passed. First, maybe a little trial orders. So I think at 2024, at the middle of that year, we get a very big orders. And now, Old Navy and Gap, it is a top one or top two, it's the first or the second of our company. Yes, this is also, you see, I can see Tagib same because they see Old Navy just, set up our factory. So they also move here, come to do some audit, then start business. We come here to do some investigation. Then the conflict is coming, so we have to give up. Actually, at that time, in 2022, I think in July, in China, the conflict is not ending. We have to go out. So we come here, we find a decision to make the factory here. At November 2023, we signed the contract. So then after Lunar New Year, we go back 2024. Then we start to build the housing, to fix the machines, something like that.
A question that I have for you is how many percent those brands wanted to move out from China? Was it they told you that they want to put 10%, 20%, 30% of their raw materials, so of the fabrics?
You means that how many percentage the target of the brand that request? Normally you see, I think they just give like, step by step. Maybe the first year, maybe 30%, maybe second year, 50. Then, at least maybe 70, because some of our special items must be made in China, like Japan, like some synthetic fiber. So normally I think at least they just request 70%, something like that. Like Old Navy tag, like Cats. I think, so many USA brand, they insist on the instruction like this. Yeah, at least 50%, something like that.
Okay. So from 30% when they are into testing, test orders to 50%,
Yeah,
to now even 70%
yeah,
when they are having their supply chain that is robust,
yeah.
and those orders that are here. It was very great input to understand about the story and why you have been setting up your factory here. You say that you were benchmarking between Indonesia and Vietnam.
Yeah.
And you choose Vietnam as a place to set up this production factory. What was the twist spots between moving to Vietnam instead of Indonesia?
The first you see is the vendor, means that the garment factory, for this brand, there are a lot of them just located in Vietnam. So in order to save time from, the fabric sent to the garment factory, even if the whole delivery time for the garments, the first issue. The second issue, I think maybe Vietnam is more same as China, something like that. So we just make the decision to set up the factory here. We need, because we are just one step of the whole supply chain. So we must near to the garment factory because we are fabric factory. The other issue from our side, we just think, maybe Vietnam, all the situation system, something like that. Even if the people is more like Chinese, so maybe for that it's easily to communication to working.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from an ease of business and as well as for the proximity between China and Vietnam, and from the fact that there are a lot of vendors, so garments factory that you can sell directly the fabric,
Yeah.
you chose Vietnam to set up your production facility. Okay, that's great. Can we move over there? And I think over there you have some brands that could be also interesting to highlight.
Yes. Like you see, this is the Lacoste. Actually, in China, we do not start cooperation with this brand. We come here, then we attend the exhibition. So at that time, they also just looking for some new vendors, new factories. So we start. We start from last year, and it is maybe the seventh brand of our facility here, 2023. The scale will be enlarged, something like that. So this is, that's why excellent to you. We come here, not just only take over the orders from China. We also set up the sales team, merchandiser, totally here of our Vietnamese local, no Chinese, only me. So why we want to take over so many orders here for the Vietnam local? So this is one example. We get the orders, all the garment factory, they come here. Not only one garment factory, means that we are now the recommended vendor of this brand. Means that their Vietnam office, Ho Chi Minh office just send my contact information to all their vendor. So they just come here to do some purchasing the fabric. So this is one example. And also this same, because, they just don't want to move out China. When we are working in China, we have very seldom cooperation business. But now come here, we enlarge because, the brand just request a move out China quickly, totally. So we have the factory, we can get more orders. If like that, you work in China, you have no overseas facility. The brand just, set the orders to the supply, which they have overseas facility. So we set up the factory here. We have, and they just, send us more orders. If do not have, means that we cannot enlarge our orders. And even if we will drop down, because we have no overseas, facility, this is not what they request. Yeah, same like this. And also the cards should be same like that. Now, cutters should be the same scale as Gap and Navy. The Gap and the Navy, which will take over from China, move out. But the cutters, this is new because they also, the brand company, they want to move off China very strongly and very quickly. So we set up the factory. When we are working in China, we have no business. But now in Vietnam, especially, they focus on the printing for kids wear. So we, just set up 4 lines of printing. That's why I explained to you, we are different from the local, maybe, like some Korea, some Vietnamese, because they only focus on the solid. But we focus on the printing. We are very good at and specialize in printing. So we build up the factory here. So they come, they do some audit, then they set up the orders.
So business-wise, it's also a very interesting move that
Yeah.
your group have done by setting up this factory here, because it opened up a lot of advantages that you have compared to other producer that only have, for instance, one factory in China.
Yes. First speaking, at the beginning, my boss just say, "Oh, if we will not move out, we'll lose the chance." You understand what I mean? Because you only have Chinese factory. So the brand just request to move out. If not move out, maybe 3 years, you will be pick up on the supply. Then, we make the decision. And then we come here. I also report to my boss. I always say we are a local company here. Maybe you are the boss, you are Chinese, but the company is Vietnamese. So we must localize, means that, our team, our colleague, and even if our customer. So she just said, oh, should be like that. So maybe a little difficult, especially at the beginning time. But if you insist on and try your best, then the customer will come more and more. So now you see, now means that Chinese orders and also local orders have had 50-50.
I would like to come back to what you say about your clients moving the production here and asking for speed
Yeah.
with urgent needs. What is the mindset of your clients when they are reaching out to you? Are they telling you that they will send an audit team to audit your factory and they want a ramp-up phase fast or sample very fast? What is the mindset of your clients?
You see, the first, I think, should be the request from relations, means that mobile time. The first, and the second issue, we also make our internal evaluation because the diamond factory here, you see, even if the loss will come to the loss, maybe only 5 days. But if you move from China to here, I think at least 15 days. So that's why, we also make the decision to nearby the factory, the garment here, just to want to evaluate service for our customer, like quick response, like the short time reaction, something like that. But, if you work in Indonesia, maybe Cambodia, is too far away, same as we work in China. So that's why we also want to just, close to the diamond factory to offer quick time response, and delivery short time, something like that. So this is very good. Yeah.
One last thing that I would like to ask is about the cotton. What is right now things that are imported? So obviously most of the cotton is imported to Vietnam. But when you have the blended formula with spandex, with polyester, are there right now factories here in Vietnam that can provide that blend? Or do you source the yarn directly with the appropriate blended options according to the spec of your clients?
We are a local company. So for the material, especially for the cotton, we're totally sourcing here. Maybe a little just imported from India. That means that 95%. Then, for like some spandex, also here, we buy from Hyosung Vietnam. Means that, we are a local company. So means that we should be localized. Not just, our team, our customer, but also our supply. Should be same like that. But, if some special, maybe we also need it, imported from China. But many we just sourcing here. Especially for the cotton, now, no, because all the brands just request no Chinese cotton yarn, so we have to based on the rules. This is also, become better and better because now the supply here, for the cotton, no problem. Spandex also, no problem. But some synthetic, especially for some poly like PTY, PY, PY something, But now also some Chinese background, company, some Taiwan, some Korea, just, better and better. Just even if some very, very special yarn, synthetic, maybe we need imported from China. Otherwise, we can local, yes.
You can localize, and then the sources will be coming from South Korea, from India, from Bangladesh, right?
Yes, here and also Vietnam. They also Taiwan. They also set up some huge factory here. Yeah, both. Maybe the boss is Taiwan, is China, but the factory is local. It's Vietnamese.
Okay, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think it gave us already a very good understanding, and I think it's going to be the two parts of this video from breaking down the reasons why your group setting up this factory here,
Yeah.
and also what are all the offerings that, and then we will have a factory tour, I think, maybe reviewing the showroom as well as all your production facility.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
I hope it was an interesting perspective from Hardy, sharing the reasons why they have set up a couple of years ago their factory here in the south of Vietnam. You have seen from his perspective that it's a combination of speed, accessibility of workforce, and also pool of manufacturers that are already here in the region, and why they have chosen Southern Vietnam as a place, set up their first operation here. They have mentioned to us that they're also looking at other places in Vietnam for a potential second factory, more in the northern part of Vietnam, or directly to consider Mexico to get closer to US, because obviously US is their biggest market. So if you are a manufacturer yourself and you are looking at setting up your own operation in Asia, I will leave below in the description more details about our services. We can basically act as your underground team to look at mapping the different clusters here in Vietnam, because obviously depending on what you want from Vietnam, there will be a lot of places, scenarios, and then strategies to enter the Vietnamese market for pure manufacturing perspective. You can build up your own supply chain by using existing vendors, existing suppliers here, so purely on the contract manufacturing approach, or you can choose to set up your own operation. And from this, you may have different market entry approach to build up, and also availability of lands, availability of workers, availability of raw materials that may be more dominant in a certain area of Vietnam. So you need to do a groundwork to do things accordingly and properly. So I will leave below all details about our services. Feel free to reach out to us, send us your inquiry. What are the current production that you are having? What is your plan to enter the Vietnamese market from those approach? And we'll be very happy to consult you on the one-to-one conversation. If you enjoyed the video, leave a thumbs up, and I see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.